Thanks for being here. My name's Richard. I'm a grateful, recovered member of Cocaine Anonymous.
Hi, Richard.
Yeah. Well, my story starts like this. I was born at a very young age. No? No? I have a brother. He's known me all my life. No? Building up. Like a lot of us, my first drink was when I was 12 years old. That's when my brain was developing. Started to create a negative, positive loop. I grew up in a family that was just, it was okay. It was okay to drink. I started at a young age having a glass of wine at the table here and then, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, those special occasions. I come from a long line of alcoholics and addicts. Not going to get too much into it. I keep this part very, very short. And this is what it was like. At 17, my heart was broken, and I turned to alcohol, plain and simple. I buried my feelings, I buried my emotions, and when I found alcohol, just like in Bill's story, I had arrived. When the alcohol stopped working and became the depressant that it actually is, I found cocaine. Then I really, really arrived. I could go all night, I could say the best things, anything that I did was perfect in my mind. It became my solution. I don't know how many people have seen the movie Top Gun, but plain and simple, I was Maverick and cocaine was my goose. And it gave me a whole bunch of things. I started drinking because I didn't fit in. Cocaine and alcohol allowed me that false sense of security to be social. It gave me that, at the time, what I thought was great. And then it took it all away. It just simply took it all away. I became what Bill says, a lone wolf. And then the ball starts rolling. At some point in my life, I crossed the line. I don't know when that was, where I drank and used my way into what the doctor calls the allergy. And I used to want to know about when it was, that moment that I crossed that line. But today it's either here nor there. It just simply doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is I have it, and it is never, ever going away. So, went on like this for a long time, and fast forward to 2017, I got to a point where I knew that I had a problem, and I knew that I couldn't stop, and I would swear it off all the time, and I'd say I was done. Right? This is the last time. You have 6 hours later or 12 hours later or whatever, right? Until the time that I could steal something from somebody, take some money out of my wife's purse, or manage to get anything that I could get a hit or a fix, and I'd be off to the races. It wouldn't matter if I wanted to or didn't want to. The fact of the matter is I had no choice. I lost the power of choice. So went on, I don't know how long it went on, for quite some time. In Bill's story, he says he went on like that for 2 years. I don't know, it was quite some time, and I just had kind of an epiphany not too long ago. At that time, I started praying. I started asking for something to find a way out, because I couldn't do it myself. November 2017, it was November 16th, 2017, I didn't wake up from one of my sprees, and there were 6 cops at my door. And because we couldn't put 4 AA batteries into the locking mechanism, my young kids at that age walked out in minus 20 degree weather and managed to get to a neighbor's house with their snot frozen on their lip. 6 cops showed up on my door, and at that time I woke up. And they came in, and my kids were taken away. And that was my, gift of desperation, which I consider now the gift of willingness, plain and simple. That was God answering my prayers, plain and simple, right? And it was the right thing. So that led me to a treatment center where I got introduced to the steps. See, I like to qualify myself, A, because I like talking about myself, and B, I think it's important to qualify myself as you know, the real deal or the real McCoy. Close to the end, I would think about using, and immediately it turned into an obsession, right? The only thing that would get me through the day, what I thought in my mind was a mind-altering substance. I had to have it. I would think about it, I would have that desire, and I wouldn't stop thinking about it. It would consume my mind. And one thing I know about myself today is that my actions follow my thoughts. Plain and simple, that's a fact. I learned more about that as I go through the steps. And I would pick up. And I would pick up when I was sober, right? Of sound mind, right? You know, when I'm sober, I'm making that decision. And I love my kids. I love my wife. I love my friends. I love my family. When I start thinking about it, that love starts to subside. It gets smaller and smaller. And then once I put that drink or drug into my body, that love ceases to exist. Plain and simple. I don't care about my kids. I don't care about my family. I don't care about anybody I love because I simply don't love them anymore. The only thing that matters to me is getting drunk or high and staying drunk or high. That's plain and simple. I have locked my kids in their room to run to the bank with nobody home to get more money. I have robbed their piggy banks to get my next fix. I just simply don't care. I've had people, you know, that brings me a little bit to the frothy emotion. People in my life would be, Richard, why can't you quit? Quit. You have to do it for your kids. I would start saying that shit to myself, right? I have to quit for my kids. I'm ruining people's lives. But what happens is that brings my emotion to the upper level. It brings my emotion out. And why I drink in the first place is to get rid of that. So when I bring it out and other people bring it out, all I want to do is drink and drug more. I need to escape from that. Basically, you take away the drink and the drug from me, and I wake up as a 5-year-old, emotional 5-year-old in a 40-year-old's body. I would throw temper tantrums, right? I'd be restless, irritable, discontent, right? I'd be sitting on the couch and I'd be so itchy, bitchy, and twitchy. My wife would look at me and say, fuck, somebody get that guy a crack pipe. Like, that's how bad it was, right? That was my solution. That's what gave me that sense of ease and comfort. Plain and simple. When my kids got taken away, you know, I was willing. It's like, okay, right? There's a huge amount of emotion, and when that emotion came out, guess what I did the same night my kids were taken away to escape from it? I had no other choice, right? I'd lost the power of choice. I'd given that up a long time ago. Yeah. Today I look at it as a gift. CFS did the right thing. They took my kids. My kids were safe, and it gave me the opportunity to plain and simply find God, right? You know, and the 12 steps introduced me to that higher power. I went to a treatment center, and they had me. I'm just basically going to go through my steps here and see how this goes. I didn't prepare anything. I prayed lots today about this, and you know, we're just going to see where it goes. Step 1, admitted I was powerless over alcohol. And then there's a big long dash there, right? There's not an and or there's not a therefore. You know, my life had become unmanageable. And the treatment center that I was in had me write out this big long thing, right? And when I go to do the step in the office, they say, why do you drink or drug? And I went on for 10 or 15 minutes, and the answer that they were eventually looking for is because I'm an alcoholic or I'm a drug addict. Right? So once I said that, you know, I could see the progression, and then it was kind of off to the races. In the beginning, I mean, it was just the conclusion of my mind. I couldn't conclude anything at the heart level or at the gut level because I had buried that stuff for so long. I had no idea. I mean, I was just at such a desperation place that God wasn't my problem. Nothing was my problem except for the drugs and the alcohol, right? So I needed to get off of it. And that was just simply in the beginning. Today it means so much more to me, that step 1. Plain and simple, if this thing's left untreated, this thing that I suffer from, plain and simple, I will drink or drug. That's all there is to it, and I've proven that. See, when I go through that step 1 process, and don't get me wrong, I love treatment centers. If it weren't for treatment centers for my situation, I wouldn't have had a safe place to explore these emotions and be that 5-year-old kid throwing a temper tantrum, because anytime that started to come out, and I would have hightailed it out there. So the treatment centers were an amazing thing for me. It was plain and simply a safe place to come out of it and clear that fog. After the treatment center, I go through the steps quite quickly through treatment, and I come out of treatment, and it took me about 2 weeks outside of treatment because I still didn't know what I had suffered from. I didn't have the facts about my disease. I had a little bit of self-knowledge, and I get out of the treatment center, and almost immediately, everything starts to go to a higher priority than the program. I'm speaking at treatment centers. I'm doing what I think at that point is step 12, but that's all I'm doing. I have this self-knowledge, and I strike this, what Bill calls the strange mental blank spot. And I get a text on my phone, and I remember this vivid, and it's clear as yesterday. Hey, do you want to get high? And I wrote back, this is not a good idea. And then 2 weeks later, $8,000 later, I'm the guy walking down 17th Avenue selling my TV for my next hit. Right? I couldn't bring forward with sufficient truth the pain and the suffering that it caused me. Even my kids being taken away. That didn't come to the forefront of my mind. I simply could not bring forth with sufficient force the truth about what I suffered from. So I came back, I hit Cocaine Anonymous, and I found a guy that's been around for a long time, and he took me through the book line for line. And in that first 43 pages, man, I had it was amazing. He took me through the forewords, he took me through the prefaces, he explained what a textbook is to me, right? It's meant to study. And he took me in this forward to the first edition, he had me highlight we, right? We of Alcoholics Anonymous. That's not me, that's not us in that room, or in this room. That's the first 140 or 150 people that helped write the book or helped edit it. Of Alcoholics Anonymous are more than 100 men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. Right? That's why I introduced myself as recovered today, because I am not hopeless anymore. And as long as I don't take that first drink or drug, then I don't have to worry about the body part, right? Because that's still there. That allergy is still there. It's still ticking. To show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered. That tells me these guys had 100% success, right? These first 100 or so people, and that's what I got to do. Right? The more I get away from that the we of Alcoholics Anonymous, the more chance I have that I'm going to fail, because I'm going to be doing what other people's opinion of the steps are. And then he takes me through the I don't know where it is, the success rate on XX of alcoholics who came to AA and really tried. 50% got sober at once and remained that way. 25% sobered up at some relapses, and among the remainder, those who stayed on in AA showed improvement. 50%, holy crap. That tells me right there, if I stay as close as I can to the we of Alcoholics Anonymous, I have at least a 75% chance of being recovered from a hopeless state of mind and body. I'm definitely not in that 50%. I'm definitely in the 25%, or the ones that just kept coming back. Took me a while. It's been a hell of a ride, that's for sure. Then we went through the doctor's opinion, and it was all important to me. Men and women drink essentially because they like the effect produced by alcohol. My mom asked me a few weeks ago, Rick, why did you do it? Right? Mom, because I like what it does to me, plain and simple. Right? I've never met anybody that got addicted to cocaine that's come to me and said, I started using cocaine because I didn't like what the fuck it did to me. Right? Totally me. I like what it does to me. And that's part of the obsession for me. It always used to take me back to the good points, the fun times. And don't get me wrong, I've had a lot of fun drinking and using, but at some point I crossed that line, right? And it became my solution. And I challenge any real alcoholic or any real addict, right? Any real McCoy or real deal to tell me that they can get rid of the drugs and alcohol and come back to me 7 days later or a month later and look at me in the face and say, my life is fucking perfect today, because I got rid of the drugs and alcohol. If I had that problem, if alcohol and drugs were my only problem, I wouldn't be sitting here today. And that's a fact of the matter. I learned very quickly that it's not even my problem, it's my solution. The sensation is so elusive that while they admit it's injurious, they cannot after time differentiate the truth from the false. I can't tell what it's going to do to me. To them, their alcoholic life seems the only normal one. They are restless, irritable, discontented. Restless, I can't sit still. I'm up, I'm down. Irritable, my fuse is short, and I'm discontented. When I look at the sky and it's blue, I want it to be black, and if it's black, I want it to be fucking blue. There's something missing in my life. What do I fill that missingness with? A drink or a drug, right? All of a sudden, unless they can again experience the sense and ease of comfort which comes at once by taking a few drinks which they see others take with impunity, after they've succumbed to the desire again, as so many do, and the phenomenon of craving develops, they pass through the well-known stages of a spree, emerging remorseful with a firm resolution not to drink again. I'd be on my knees telling people, telling my wife, telling my mom, everybody, telling myself this is the last time, I'm never doing it again. Put me on a lie detector test in that moment, and I swear to God I would have passed that lie detector test. That's how serious I was. And then back to the races again, right? Until my kids were taken away. On the other hand, as strange as this may seem to those who do not understand, once a psychic change has occurred, the very same person who seemed doomed, had so many problems he despaired of ever solving them, suddenly finds himself easily able to control his desire for alcohol. The only effort necessary being that required to follow a few simple rules. See, I still have a desire to use. Plain and simple. I still remember the good times. I don't know if that desire is ever going to go away. I just don't know. I'm so new at this, right? The difference is when I have that desire, I have a defense. I'm easily able to control that desire. Plain and simple, I don't keep thinking about it. I bring forward what it's going to happen. The symptoms of my allergy is that I'm going to lose my house again. I'm going to lose my kids again. I'm going to lose my wife again, right? Those are the physical symptoms of my disease. Step one isn't even about the drugs or the alcohol anymore, right? At the beginning it was. I thought that was my problem. My true problem is that my life is unmanageable, my thoughts and my actions, my emotions, right? It's not even the things that I did when I was drunk or high. Like, I can't tell you all the things that I did when I was drunk and high. My biggest fault as a human being is my memory, plain and simple. I can't tell you what I said 5 minutes ago. How am I supposed to remember all those things when I was drunk and high? My main problem that I've just found out, and the true nature of step one, and that M dash, there's a big long dash in there, directs me to that last sentence of step one. And what I find out going through the steps is that I don't know how to assert my God-given willpower. I don't know how. I've been trying all this time, and I either over-exaggerate or under-exaggerate, trying to get what God gave me. I don't know how to do it. So I move on with the steps, right? Step two, came to believe that a power greater than myself would restore me to sanity. And I know the definition of the sanity and stuff, and I know what Bill's talking about with the insanity, right? I make that decision to make another one, or have another one when I'm sober. But I just came to believe. I didn't have a problem with God. See, I was at such a point where I was at such a desperational point that I didn't really care, right? I was given that true gift that, listen, I'm just going to follow this thing to the best of my ability and go forward with it, right? That's all it took for me in step two. Step three, it was just a decision. And how it works. Right before step three, it says that we were alcoholic and could not manage our own lives, that probably no human power could have relieved our alcoholism, that God could and would if he were sought. I need to believe those three things from the gut to actually go ahead with step three and go through the rest of it. If I don't believe those three things, right, it's probably not going to work for me. Today, this is what my steps look like. 1, 2, and 3. I do them every day. And when I wake up in the morning before my feet hit the bed, I thank God for yesterday. And I tell him that I'm going to need his fucking help today, right? I ask him to show me the next right thing to do, show me the next right thought to think, and show me how I can help somebody. And I tell him that I'll do my best today, right? And I say, thy will, not mine. And sometimes I forget, and by the time I get to the shower, I usually remember. But if I forget to do these 3 things, my life, it starts off bad. Well, it doesn't start off bad, but it gets, I start to get that restless and irritable and discontentedness. After that, I do a little bit of meditation. I'm up before everybody, and some of the instructions in 11 I've put into practice. I smudge in the morning. I say some prayers, right? And I meditate. And I've asked my family to start getting involved with that. And more often than not, we say a little prayer with the kids. That's an instruction in step 11. And if they're willing, they come and do it. And it's a fantastic thing. That's my morning, step 11. That's upon awakening. I can tell you what it looks like. That 4 through 9 is that process, right? It's that one process. And in step 4, I find out what my real problem is, and I find out what I'm going to make amends for in 9, basically, right? I need to find out need to get down to conditions and causes. And I find out that I'm human because I have 3 innate human instincts, and one is to be social. And remember when I said cocaine gave me that social, right? The alcohol gave me that social. It brought me out of being that shy kid in the corner. And then it took it all away. I have this innate instinct to be around other human beings. I'm born with it. I'm born with innate instinct for security. I want to be fed. I want to be sheltered. And I want to feel secure. I'm born with it. Every human is. And I have this innate instinct to reproduce, this sex instinct. And my ambitions, my God-given will, has been either over-exaggerating or under-exaggerating these things for a long time. It's not aligned, and what happens is I end up hurting people. And I build resentments, and I'm selfish, and I'm self-centered, and I'm inconsiderate, and at the end of the day, I'm just a fearful little human being that can't get what he wants, right? God's will for me is the opposite of those character defects. My higher power started off with the runes, right? Of a power greater than myself, which is still a power greater than myself, and love, because love is the opposite of my character defects. And then I go on to step 5. And step 5, today, it shows me the order at which I need to put everything in all the time. God, myself, and another human being. Because God takes care of me, and if I don't invite God in, I can't take care of me, right? And if I'm not taking care of myself or letting God take care of me, then I'm absolutely of no use to another human being. So I always put God first, and then it has to be me, and then another human being. 6 and 7 have grown so much for me, especially over the last 4 or 5 months. They've become infinitely big, and they continue to grow at an extremely fast rate. When I actually do 6, and I actually invite God into my life, see, because that's the only really thing I'm powerful over. I have the decision to either invite God in or not invite God in. And when I invite God in and I'm willing to do that, right, at a truthful level, and ask him to remove these things throughout the day, every single moment, right, when I'm agitated or unsure, I get to take I get to look at what God wants me to be, and he wants me to be the opposite of my character defects. And then I go, if I've caught this in time, then I don't need to make an amends for it, right? And in the beginning, I was saying sorry to everybody all the time, right? Constantly. Today, I catch myself a lot. 8, I had 8. I had that list when I wrote 4. That's all that it was a list. And 9 is the amends. So for me, I'm still doing amends. I'll never stop doing amends. The amends that I made first were my family. And see, I went to them and I found out what I was making amends for in step 4 and step 5. So I've basically gone to a lot of people and said, hey, I've been selfish. I've been self-centered. I'm a thief, right? I'm fearful. I've been inconsiderate to you. And I want you to know that I've done something now, and I've started to do something. And the old Richard that you have come to know is no longer with us. That old Richard is raising daisies. He's 6 feet under. And I got that from a long timer at 1835. See, when I tell somebody that and I make amends, a complete change for the better, that means going forward forever. So I've said that to my family. So that means that I'm going to be making that amends for the rest of my life, right? I get to own myself too in this step 9. When I go and I clear my side of the street, I really get to own who I was. Step 4, I acknowledged what the problem was. Step 5 was kind of like a little, getting it out. I acknowledge it a little bit more. I invite God into it, right? So he can direct my thinking and direct me in the right way. And when I go make an amends to somebody, I own who I was. I'm okay with it. I can move on. That's kind of all one process. And the first time I go through the steps, it's this big, huge, round circle. And today it's gotten a little bit smaller, right? Because 10 is 4 through 9 every single day. When I do step 10 and 11 together as a combo, and I follow the instructions, and it took a long time to actually follow the specific instructions in them, that's when everything started to change. That's when that true awakening happened. And I really just kind of stepped aside and just let God, or whatever it is, take care of what's going to happen 5 minutes from now, a week from now, a month from now. Because at the end of the day, I just can't comprehend that much. The only thing I can comprehend is right here, right now, right this second. And he takes care of the rest. And when I finally did that, a whole bunch of things started to happen. A whole bunch of little coincidences and big coincidences, which is a higher power, because I don't believe in coincidences, started to happen. And it's not all, it hasn't been all good. I've lost a job because I went to seek more spirituality, and I had to be okay with it. But as long as I continue to try to do the next right thing as a human being, moment to moment throughout the day, I'm easily able to control my desire. Plain and simple. That obsession has been removed. I don't think about it anymore. And steps 4 through 9 allow me to invite God into my day, into that moment, right? When I pause, when I'm agitated, to help me build my character. I get to build my character. God helps me build my character. And a byproduct of that is I don't drink or use anymore. Plain and simple. It tells me that, I don't know why it is, but step 11 goes like this. It goes, when we retire at night, right? And then it gives us upon awakening. And then following that, it gives us the instructions that we're supposed to do throughout the day. Now, I don't know why that is. The best that me and a couple other people that have asked about it is that because Bill wrote it at night, right? He started step 11 writing it at night. And that's when he was retiring at night. He slept, he woke up in the morning, and he wrote upon awakening, and then he went through his day writing step 11. I don't know if that's how it was. Maybe somebody can enlighten me afterwards, but it makes sense to me. I missed a lot of that throughout the day stuff with 11. And I truly believe that 10 and 11 push me into that 4 through 9 and make that 6 and 7 bigger, which allows me to practice these principles in all my affairs. It tells me that the much more important demonstration of me practicing these affairs lies ahead of me in my home, my occupations, and my affairs. That's where it's important for me to do it. If I can't do it at home, how the hell am I going to do it in the real world? And 10 and 11 allow me to do that. I can tell you what all my steps look like, right? I can verbalize it. And that's what I've been really working on lately. I ask guys now too, what does that look like? What does your 1, 2, 3 look like? What does your step 10 and 11 look like? Step 12 is also taking the message to other alcoholics or addicts. I used to think it was my message. Right? I have a fucking message. I know what I'm doing. I'm just listening to a speaker tape. I'm such a small spoke in a massive wheel, right? It's not my message. I have nothing to do with it. It is the message, and it's contained in the first 100 or so pages of Alcoholics Anonymous. The promises. How do we do? The promises. I'll I'll touch on the promises a little bit because a lot of the promises have come true, and they keep coming true. A good friend of the fellowship says the promises aren't maybes or might happens. They are promises. They happen, right? They just simply do. It's an amazing thing. One of the promises is that I get placed in a position of neutrality. And at the beginning, I was placed in a position of neutrality with drugs and alcohol. Truly, when I invite God into each moment throughout my day, when I remember to do that, because I'm far from perfect at this thing, I get placed in a position of neutrality with everything. The problem isn't drugs or alcohol. The problem is my unmanageability. And I get placed in a position of neutrality with everything, right? There's lots of instructions there. It might be good, it might be bad. I'm okay with it, right? If I've invited God in, then I am okay with it. But I struggle with it sometimes, right? And I don't remember to do this stuff all the time. The main thing is that it says in step 12 is that we tried, right? As long as I try to the best of my ability, and my best of my ability might be different today than it is tomorrow, right? But as long as I'm honestly trying with this thing, then I get placed in that position of neutrality with everything. I cease fighting everything and everything. It's an amazing thing. A good example of that is with CFS with us. When that year was over, we signed on for another 6 months with Child Family Services. We stopped fighting them, right? And it became an extremely good relationship. I used up much less energy, right, fighting them, and just kind of realized that, it was all part of the plan anyway. There's an old AA saying, suit up and show up. And at the beginning for me, that was, put on my clothes, get to a goddamn meeting, right? The meetings will keep me sober. Today, I get to wake up and I get to put on my skin, right? I get to put on my skin suit because I'm comfortable in myself today. I can walk through the world. I can walk through the world comfortable with me because I know it's none of my business what any of you are thinking. That's up to a higher power, and I can't control that. I know that some people are going to like me, some people aren't going to like me, and that's just okay. That's being a human being. The fact of the matter is, I own who I was, right? I own who I am today, and by the grace of God, I will own who I become tomorrow and thereafter. Plain and simple. I get to, my kids used to say, "I love you, Daddy," and I would hear it, but it wouldn't register. Today, I get to feel my kids say, "I love you." And that's truly amazing feeling because I haven't had feelings for a very long time. And it's a remarkable thing. I was expecting more newcomers here because I like to talk to newcomers, but all you guys are, Anyway, I'm going to finish up with that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Richard.